Hey everybody, my name's Phil Ike, and joining me this morning are Cindy and Holly. Good morning, guys.
Morning.
Good morning.
So before we jump into a really great conversation about branding, I'm looking forward to this. Just take a second, introduce yourselves to folks in case they don't know who you are. Holly, we'll start with you.
My name is Holli McPherson, and I am the Executive Director of Wayland Main Street.
I am Cindy Wilcox, and I am the Executive Director of Main Street Grosse Pointe.
I love you guys. We've met in the past. I've visited both your communities. I'm absolutely in love with what you guys are doing over there. But this morning we're talking about branding and the importance of community branding. Sometimes you go into a community and you see logos and colors and banners and signs and city trucks with the logos on it. Sometimes you go in a community and you don't see any of that. And so this morning we're going to talk about branding, the importance of it to a community, as well as the service that Michigan Main Street provides to you. So Holly, let's start off with you, and then Cindy, you can follow. Why did you use this branding service from Michigan Main Street? What was the state of your community's brand for engaging with MMS?
Well, our current brand was actually one of the first ones that Ben did in the community. So we've actually used them twice. And I think it was like 2012 or something that they did the first branding, and it was browns and like reds. It just didn't speak Wayland. And so when I took this position and our service became available, I wanted to revamp the community from the ground up. And I know that logos, colors change the excitement of everything. So that was why we did this program through them, was because we were trying to create this new excitement in Wayland. And how do you create it when you have these colors that have been kind of disintegrated and don't really speak of the up and coming new? So we worked with him twice, and we loved him both times, but I think he understood where we were coming from. And that was awesome to come in and say, we need pop of colors, we need excitement, and we need this.
Yeah. So it kind of sounds like you wanted to pursue this rebrand as a way to not just visually represent the community in a better way, but to create some kind of emotion and momentum and excitement about moving forward.
Yeah. Yep, that was the main goal. We couldn't really do it when they've seen the decline of the downtown with the current branding. So it was a complete rebrand for the complete redesign.
I think that's such a great point, that just like great brands connect in great ways, if bad things are happening, that now that logo or now that brand carries with it some negative associations. I love that point. Cindy, why did you guys pursue a rebrand through Michigan Main Street?
I think our story is a little bit different, but a lot of the reasons are the same. Grosse Pointe is a newer Main Street. They were accepted into the Main Street program during COVID, actually in 2020, so really didn't get off the ground until 2021. So our downtown district, the Village, had a pretty strong brand, everybody felt, but Main Street was a little bit harder to communicate and how that all tied together. We were fortunate we had a graphic designer that redesigned logos for some events for us prior to going through this branding process, but we really had kind of a twofold approach. We wanted to be able to brand Main Street and be able to use that to explain what Main Street is and why it was important in the Village, but also do it in a cohesive manner that integrated with our Village brand, which was really strong and really recognizable. And again, as same thing as Holly said, introducing some color into it was really important to me. Grosse Pointe is kind of a traditional community, and everything was blue and white and gray, kind of to match the water. We're near the water. And so going through the rebrand and putting Main Street into what we already did, but in a little more updated, a little more fun, and a little more flexible way, was really important to show that, yes, we're still the Village and we're still everything you love, but we're so much more, and Main Street is so much more, and this is what you can look forward to.
Yeah.
So
two great points I love about what you said, in that you as a community, as maybe a new Main Street program, chances are if folks listening to this are considering joining Michigan Main Street and going through that process, and in that you need to communicate what that program is to the community, and that doesn't stop after you become a Michigan Main Street community. You have to keep doing it. You have to be out there. You have to be visible. You have to constantly advocate for what that program means to the community. And that's a great way to do it. And also love what you said about the city already having a really strong brand. And so how can we rebrand or brand as Main Street community to fit into that? Like, it's not thrown over the tables and saying, yeah, this brand is bad. No, like you can be cohesive. And that's something that Ben Muldrow talks about a lot is, Main Street is important, but it's also connected to the rest of the community. So how can we make that feel together, collective and cohesive?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think he also took components of event kind of logos and brands we had to expand the whole brand book that we had. So we had fonts and a few more colors and a few more ways to use it. But it tied it all in really cohesively.
This is a cool combination because you have Holli saying we needed a complete rebrand, starting from scratch. We have to, throw open the doors and say, this is who we are now. And then Cindy in Grosse Pointe, we had nuts and bolts that were working, and we had kind of materials, and we just amplified them a bit. So we're already talking about Ben Muldrow from Arnett and Muldrow. So let's talk about the process. Holli, what, from your perspective, what was this branding process like? You talk about, or you hear some agencies will come in and it's a 12-month long process, a 6-month long process. What was the process like for you guys in Wayland?
Well, it started with a couple of phone calls or video calls where he got to know us. And he already previously knew Wayland because he did the first branding. So it was more like, what are we looking for? Wayland's not on the water. It's not on a river. It's in the farm. And so we were like, how can we incorporate who we are while not like having a corn stalk as our like logo, So he knew Wayland pretty well already. And so there's a couple of phone calls, I think 2 video calls, and he came to Wayland and just really got the feel of it. And then one night I was just sitting around the couch, got an email, and he sent me over the branding package, and it blew my mind that how could someone know something create such a feeling of Wayland while just being there one time. His work is amazing. So he was inspired by one of our largest murals and he just ran with it. And we're known as Dahlia City, which he previously knew. And so he created this like Dahlia kind of image that we use as our main stamp and brought the colors to life. And now they're sprinkled all across downtown.
In the actual recording of this, I'm going to hopefully bring up an actual photo of the branding that he did for you. If I forget to do that, listeners, watchers, just type in downtown Wayland and you'll be able to find it. But what I love about great brands is they're representative, but they're not on the nose. There's a little bit of a hidden meaning there. It's subtle. It's not, this very complex, ornate drawing of a dahlia. It's very representative, but then when you hear we're known as Dahlia City and you look at the logo, you're like, oh yeah, of course that looks like a dahlia. And I think that's a mark of a really great agency. Cindy, probably a different experience, but maybe a little bit similar with you. What was your process like?
No, I think it was pretty similar to Holli's, and the same thing. I was so amazed. I think that the trip and the visit from Ben, the little bit of time he was here, he really got the feeling and the vibe of Grosse Pointe, and he really was able to give us something that resonated with the entire board. Whether the people who wanted to see big change or the people that were really traditionalists, he really managed to tie that all in together. An iconic piece in the middle of our downtown, we have a giant clock arch that goes across the main street, which is Kirchhoff. And so he incorporated that into our brand, and it's really recognizable. And anybody from around here sees the ornate kind of grill work of the clock, the center clock piece, which is what he used, and they know it's the Village. So it helped tie, again, the old Village brand with the new Main Street brands in that manner that is easily recognizable, and help people start identifying that it all belongs together, because we did have a little bit of an identity crisis. We were the Village. Before Main Street, there was a merchant-run Village Association. We're also the Downtown Development Authority, and then we were Main Street, and people didn't understand it. And so this really has helped us go a long way to showing that, yes, our destination is the Village, and what's happening is in the Village, but it's powered by Main Street. And that was another component of the brand that he gave us, was a little tagline, powered by Main Street, so that we could drop that in, so that we didn't have to scream the Village and Main Street and all these different logos in everything we did, but we could start doing it in a manner that was easily identifiable.
Oh, I love that. Sorry, Ben, if I'm screwing this up. I think typically he spends about 3 days on the ground in a community. What kinds of things was he doing, Cindy, during that time he was there? Was he talking to people, meeting with people, just walking around? Tell me that.
Yes, all of that. He met with the board. He met with some individual businesses. He and I spent some time walking around together, and he came and just spent some time on his own, and which I think probably really helped him get the true feeling. But it was all those things combined, and he was really open and listened and helped lead those conversations, but really also took in what everybody said. He didn't come in with any preconceived notion or idea, or at least didn't feel like it. So if he did, he does a really good job of not conveying that and making people feel part of the process. And I think that's so important to run a successful, any type of successful campaign, but especially something as big as branding, is that you need people to feel part of the process so that they buy into it and they support it and they help make it move forward.
That's one of the things I respect most about what Ben does through Michigan Main Street and this branding service, in that he doesn't make the mock-up before he comes and then, oh yes, look at me, I'm branding you guys, and then he give you something pre-made. He's really digging into, what do I see when I walk into the community? When I'm in front of a group of people, what are the things that they're saying? But then also what's underneath what they're saying? Like where is the emotion of this community come from? Where's the identity come from? And then how can I represent that in a logo, or in colors, or in branding, or a design? Or talk to me, Holli, or Cindy, whoever wants to take this one. You don't just walk away with just one logo. There's not just like this unveil and there's, aha, here's the circle logo. See, at the end of this service, what do you actually get?
Well, I can go first. You get a branding kit, which becomes your like gold. And that comes with the colors, the color codes, the logo. So we got the logos for the downtown. We got the logos for the Main Street. You got several different logos, ones that are like wide, ones that are tall, ones you got your little image. You get logos for your events, farmers market, social district. I mean, that's everything we use. We threw it all into Canva, and it's just as easy as click, click, click. When we just got a brand new sign, I send them our branding kit, and they're able to pull our logos, our colors, easily match. Same with our banners. So he also gave you ideas, which I found was interesting. So on the back, we designed our business cards based on what he designed. And we did have placemaking signs because he gave us ideas for placemaking while using the branding around town. So he not only gave you a marketing kit, he also gave you ideas on how to grow farther with the product.
Awesome. Cindy, similar experience with you. What'd you end up with?
Absolutely. There were so many options and opportunities. It was kind of fun deciding what I'm going to plug in where, because it was so good and in so many different formats so that it fits everything with suggested uses for the different formats. But I think one of my favorite things that he did is, our downtown district is known as the Village. So he created this tagline, "It takes a village," Main Street, a great place to get involved. And we've really embraced that. And I weirdly was saying that in interviews when I first started here, that it's Main Street isn't just about having a director or having a board of directors. It's not one person. It really does take a village. And it felt a little cheesy when I said it, but then when Ben branded it, it didn't sound cheesy. And was first really embraced by our board, and now it's been really embraced by the community. And we actually just launched an outdoor public art gallery, and we did the call to artists around the theme, "It takes a village," so that their interpretation of community. So we're really able to use that brand in a way that makes sense and starts drawing attention to the different things that Main Street is doing than that were done before. So yeah, that's my favorite part, I think.
That kit of all the different formats, of all the different uses, of all the different variations. If you're not familiar with working with branding agencies, that's very rare to get a pile of resources like that. Usually you're paying for the main logo and a couple mock-ups and some brand guidelines, and then they hand it over to you, and then you spend the rest of the life of that brand building a new website and wishing like, oh, I just wish that we had something a little like more square formatted, or I have this flyer, I have this event, or I have these banners. And you find yourself, when you don't have those resources, going to like a graphic designer in town, or just like me, just like hacking away at something in Canva and hoping for the best. And it takes 2.5 hours of your life that you'll never get back, and it still looks like garbage. But at the end of the service, you have all of those resources, and you look and it's like, when am I ever going to use these? That you are going to use them 8 months from now. You're going to say, man, I wish I had something square, and look, it's going to be right there. I wish I had those files on hand I could just give to somebody, and you have all of those. And so it's a really fantastic way to make life even easier.
And I think not even did we get those resources, he also kind of gave us an implementation kind of guide, how to roll out, how to use the different pieces in different areas. So it's not just the logo and the graphic resources and the colors in the fonts, but it's also, he provided that how to implement the brand and how to set up a social media strategy and all those things that kind of you talked about a little bit, to help keep that organized in a way that made sense.
Most Main Street professionals are not marketing professionals. They don't typically come from, I have a graduate degree in marketing. So, but you get to have somebody world-class leading you through that process. Like, you don't have to have a degree in marketing, because here are the resources and here's implementation, and just go and do that, and you'll crush it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was such a fun time too, because when we got the branding kit, it was like that thing where it's all of our volunteers are sitting at the start line, and we're waiting and waiting and waiting, and then we get the call and it's go time, and we were redesigning websites, redesigning social, ordering banners, new signs, new printed everything. That was a crazy time. The second you get it, you just go, because he gave you so much that you just run.
Oh, I love that. What did you guys think about the speed or the timeline of the rebrand? Did you like how fast it went?
For us, we were a unique situation when we got it, because he had a typical timeline, but based on there's something, I don't know, when we had to order something, I forgot what was going on, but he had to speed it up like super fast. So we were meeting him and getting the branding kit within a couple months, if that. So that was requested by us because of, I forgot why, but we had something that we had to order and we wanted it with our new brand.
Very cool. Cindy, what about you? Did you like the speed of the process?
Yeah, and I think we've taken it a little slower than Holli did for a number of reasons. But again, being able to introduce it in different ways without changing things so much that people didn't understand it or became confused. So this summer, we're really blowing it all out. So new banners are coming, and we're introducing even those colors into street furniture and everything else. So we've taken it a little slower and done it a little more internally and in more graphic and print, rather than the bigger things changing over, because we're kind of we still straddle that destination brand versus organization brand. So our rollout's a little different. But it's going to be big now, and people are going to understand it when it goes up on banners and it goes in bigger things that, quite frankly, cost more money to invest in. People are going to understand it, and it'll be cohesive, and it'll still identify us as who we are and what we are.
Awesome. Typically, agencies, like the actual branding process, take 6 months, 12 months. It's a very long process. And I think there's such a great advantage of the actual creation of the brand being so fast with Michigan Main Street is because we all run into like decision paralysis. You're like, should it be purple instead of blue? Should it be yellow instead of orange? And all of these things, and we end up mired in these decisions that are so inconsequential. And then at the end of it, we're like, oh, I don't know if I really like this anymore. And we could have a world-class brand and still we're thinking, oh, like we just should have done that a little bit better. So I love the speed of it, specifically from a community buy-in standpoint. Get in, listen to a bunch of people, create something great, something useful that people can support, and then get out of there and say, now go forth and use it. When Holli, I'll ask you this question first. Sometimes communities say, well, we want to use this agency, or we want to go test the waters with other branding or marketing agencies. What was the thing that said, no, we want to use this Michigan Main Street service for our community?
The reason why we did it was because it was free because of our Michigan Main Street status. I know how much branding costs, and to justify the thousands and thousands of dollars that we would have to pay to go somewhere else, it didn't make sense for taxpayers' money. So we went with them because it was free. Also, because Michigan Main Street, I trust what they have, and they love this guy, and he's done amazing work. I feel like every time I see a logo, I ask who did it, and it's always him. And so I'm like, let's go, let's run, let's get this done. So yeah.
Yeah. Cindy, what about you?
Yeah, I think the same thing. Definitely that, it's tremendous that we get these services from Michigan Main Street. And our board was really leaning towards some other services when we had the opportunity, based around fund development, which, nobody likes to raise money or have to raise money. Mm-hmm. But I felt really strongly that if we can't show who we are visually and explain that through a brand, it made everything else that was offered at that time as a newer community kind of put that on the back burner. So they finally agreed with me. But yeah, I think, not only is Ben good at his job of, branding, but he understands Main Streets, and he understands small businesses, and he understands communities. And I think that comes across so quickly that he was able to listen. But then when he presented the final product to our board, they were 100% on board. We didn't have these conversations about, well, what if you moved this over here? Or maybe this blue needs to be a little deeper, because he so fully understands it, and he can explain it so well because he gets it from their standpoint, because he's been involved in Main Street and he's served on a Main Street board, and he's been doing this work with Main Streets for so long. But he also made us feel very individual, that it wasn't like, here's the template, here's what we do, everybody gets this. We felt like it was branded to us, and we felt like it was written and presented for us, which is really important, because you don't just want to be a number or applying some template, because we know that all our communities are unique. We all are Main Streets, and we all have a lot of similarities, but we're all very unique. And he just did such a good job of putting his finger on that pulse.
Yeah, I'll publicly admit a mistake I made in this regard. I was working with a community, and they wanted a different kind of vibe. They wanted a different kind of brand. And so we deliberately looked for agencies that were, I don't want to say on the hip side, but they're on the hip side, and, East Coast, West Coast, kind of that vibe. And none of them had worked with a community before, but I assumed a similar branding process. So you go through the ideation and you get a bunch of ideas. It's the same. And it ended up not being the same. They were out of their wheelhouse and frustrated, and the brand turned out okay, but it wasn't what we invested in. And I think looking back on it in 2020 vision, it was that they don't have experience with communities and what that means, and you can throw all the ideas at them you want, but they just didn't have that experience on how to navigate, how do we represent this community, and then how do we communicate what this means to the community so that they can buy in and so that other people can buy in. And I screwed that up. I should have looked for agencies now been people that have a lot of experience understanding what goes into creating a brand for a community. I know it can be tempting to look for like really this agency super talented, really really good at what they do, just not in our environment. It wasn't an appropriate mix. So let's blow this idea up a little bit more generally. Holly, I'll start with you. Why is branding important? I mean, Cindy, you brought up in fund development, when you go and ask people for money, you got to look legit, and there's one benefit. Holly, what do you see as the benefit of really having a world-class brand for your community?
Oh man. I mean, it's honestly, I think the foundation. I always think about Michigan, the Pure Michigan campaign, and that was branding. And look what happened to that with just a few commercials. And Wayland really wanted to focus on tourism. I grew up 30 minutes from Wayland and never knew about Wayland. So I'm like, how we need to get that word out. We need to start it. And the best way is branding. Is to create these campaigns, to create these billboards, have it where people come in and they understand it's this new thriving town. It's also cohesive, because if you don't have the branding guidelines, then one person's going to use this blue and that blue because it's blue, you know? So it's honestly, I think the foundation, like Cindy said, when you're a new Main Street, this is the best service to get. It is your concrete foundation that you just build off everything.
Mm-hmm. Cindy, what about you? Why is branding important to a community?
Well, I totally agree with everything Holly said, obviously, but I think it's also important for a community, and in particular for our Main Street, because we are more than party planners and events. And so while you can put that brand on those things, it's being able to encompass everything you do and show that it's powered by Main Street, or it's produced by Main Street, or Main Street's part of it, or we are Main Street. So that's another thing I think that's really important. But yes, being able to produce any type of materials that are cohesive and look professional and look polished, help present you forward to the community, whether you're raising funds, whether you're trying to just gain support, whether you're trying to attract new businesses. You know, it shows that you've got it together and that you're a professional organization. And I think the branding and the colors and all that also show that you're also fun. That's what I liked about it is the variety of colors, that they're kind of bright, coming from the blue and gray and white world. It's fun to be able to incorporate that, because I think color brings energy.
Yeah, they're like Holly's brown, muddy brown brand from earlier.
Oh.
well, I think Holly, what you said about you grew up outside of Wayland, nearby, but you didn't really know anything about it. I think that so many of our communities are in a similar situation. If people don't know about you, you don't exist. Like you as a community do not exist in their world, and so you can do all the shop local you want, and you can do all the kind of mini tourism efforts you want. But if you don't have a big, strong, this is us, this is who we are, it becomes really easy, especially for our smaller communities, to just be overlooked as people are driving to Grand Rapids or driving to Detroit. So here's something that people can be proud of enough to slap over all the materials, to put on signs, to put on billboards, because it looks really good. And I think that encourages people to get the word out. And Cindy, what you said about looking like a good organization who's got its stuff together. We judge books by their cover. We judge wine. Like, why do we buy a bottle of wine? Because the label looks great, and because it's a little bit more expensive than that one. I don't have no idea what that thing's going to taste like inside, but based on the appearance says some things to me about what's inside it. And so if a community is running around focused on other things, branding is a mess, their aesthetic appearance looks disheveled or not cohesive, that says something to me, even unconsciously, about the state of the community. It looks like this is a disjointed mess of a bunch of different organizations all desperately trying to make this thing happen. But if you walk in and things look branded and they look cohesive, that's a first impression that can develop funds, that can create community buy-in, that can rally people around. It takes a village, when maybe before it seemed kind of cheesy and kitschy, but now it's legitimate, and now people say it all the time and they can rally around it. And man, the branding's so important. Why do you think communities neglect branding? Why do you think I might be a community that is one of those kind of appearance disheveled communities? Why do you think it gets lost in the mix sometimes? Cindy, I'll ask you first.
That's probably for a number of reasons. You get used to what you have, and it's a lot of work to change it. And there's so many other things to do. I don't think it's a conscious effort to not care or to look old and dated. Mm-hmm. But it requires a lot of work and looking at yourself differently, and sometimes a little bit differently. And sometimes it's hard to look at yourself differently. So, but at the end of the day, you want people to know that this place matters. Mm-hmm. And so if you take the time to build, again, it's kind of all about Main Street too. It's how you build that foundation. And I think having a good brand, as Holli said earlier, is the foundation of being able to present yourself and present your city and present your organization.
Holli, what? Oh, sorry, Cindy. I don't mean.
You're good. We're good.
Holli, why do you think that? Why do you think branding gets lost in the mix sometimes?
I'd have to agree with Cindy. It's a lot of work. Like I said, when we got our brand book, it was a month of all of our committees working at every single piece of paper, to your memo letters, to your emails, your social media, everything. It's a lot of work, but I would do it 100 times over if it helps your community, because with our old logo, it was and we didn't want downtown to be and we wanted to grow. We gave our branding logo to local businesses, or our branding book to local businesses with all the logos. And instead of keeping it for us, we said, like, print stuff, use this, push it everywhere. We wanted to see it on t-shirts, websites, push it. So that helped too with a lot of the way of being able to push out, so we weren't creating the shirts and all that. But I would have to say it's a lot of work, but it's worth it 100 times over.
Cindy, you kind of focused on the front end capacity. You're doing a lot of other things, and it's a lot of work to start that ball rolling towards a rebrand. And I think that's something that we can all empathize with. I mean, community work is hard. There's so many plates you got to spin in the air and balls you're trying not to drop. And so it can be easy to say, well, we'll get to that later. And I think that's one of the most amazing benefits of being a Michigan Main Street community, in that they understand that. And that's why they provide this service. They say, hey, we've got a guy who's amazing. It's going to be free. It's going to be fast, relatively fast. So you're going to get this brand soon. And you're going to have this giant pile of resources that, Holli, like you said, initially, it's going to take work to apply in all of the different ways that you can. But it's going to be something that you're proud of and that you can get out there that's going to support your program and the rest of your community. I want to thank you guys for this conversation. I think you both are just incredible people, incredible leaders in your community. I love the time that we spent together in your individual communities. If Holli first and then Cindy, Holli, if people want to check you guys out on social media or the internet, where do they go to check out Wayland?
Well, we have Facebook is Downtown Wayland, and then our website is downtownwayland.com. And we just started exploring the world of TikTok. So we actually have some fun TikTok videos under Downtown Wayland too. Oh, yeah, there's some little dances and stuff.
Yes, okay, you're going viral. Cindy, what about you? Where can we find Grosse Pointe?
You can find Grosse Pointe at the Village grossepointe.org on the web, or the Village Grosse Pointe on Facebook and Instagram.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much.
The Village Grosse Pointe, not the Village of Grosse Pointe.
Okay, Village Grosse Pointe. Well, not of. Well, I want to thank you guys for the time today, all the work that you're doing for your communities. Thanks so much.
Thank you.